the new Toyota RAV4. So this has got some pretty big shoes to fill, obviously, given that the RAV4 is often the best-selling new vehicle sold in Australia on a month-to-month basis. Not always, but quite often it comes up as the best seller. Look, I think this is, you could see this as more of a evolutional update or a facelift compared with a brand new model, because you've got very similar powertrain packaging. You've just got more advanced technology, more efficiency, and then a wider variety of options as well, because there's now a plug-in hybrid available with 227 kilowatts in XSE and GR Sport form. GR Sport as well, that's brand new for Australia. But this cruiser variant, you could say, is pretty similar to the old model. It's just tweaked in pretty much every single area. Just quickly on the design, obviously brand new front end with that hexagonal grille treatment, brand new headlights as well, sort of C-shaped. But then around at the sides, you've got a very similar silhouette, and even the wheel arch trimmings and so on, that hexagonal shape with bolstered wheel arches front and back. Seems to be pretty similar to the old model, although it is different. And then right around at the back, you've got a sort of full width taillight trim. I mean, it doesn't actually connect in the middle there, but you've got the trim piece that goes all the way through in black for that sort of JDM look as well. Yeah, overall, I think it does carry a similar mold compared with the previous model. But as the saying goes, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Obviously, being such a popular model, they didn't want to tamper with it too much. Under the bonnet, we've got quite a few changes. It might seem similar, but it's actually very different. You've still got a 2.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine connected up to an electric assist hybrid system paired to a CVT automatic with all-wheel drive. However, this 2.5 engine now produces 105 kilowatts on its own, whereas the previous model, it used to produce 131 kilowatts. So less power from the petrol engine, but the electric motor that assists it is now rated at 100 kilowatts, whereas before it was rated at 88 kilowatts. So yeah, more power from the electric side and less from the petrol side. Interestingly though, this new petrol engine requires 95 RON petrol compared with the previous model, which required 91 RON minimum. So it is going to be a bit more expensive to run this compared with the previous model, but I think that helps with overall efficiency, even though it has less power. They both have a very high compression ratio of 14:1, so it's not just that, and they're naturally aspirated, so yeah, usually you require 95 RON or more when you've got pressurized engines or high compression, which is kind of the same thing. But yeah, so it's interesting that this does bump up to the higher rated fuel, but fuel consumption is lower. Compared with the previous model, it's 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres on the official combined cycle. This new model, at least in this spec, is 4.6. So you're getting slightly better fuel consumption compared with the previous model. However, you've got less power. This new model produces 143 kilowatts compared with the old all-wheel drive hybrid that produced 163 kilowatts. So 20 kilowatts down compared with the previous model. It is tuned differently though. So now you've got better response, and with that more powerful electric motor, you're getting better response in the real world. How can I explain this? It's like when you're using between 0 and 50% throttle, which is, let's face it, most of the time, like you're not giving it 100% throttle all the time, you're just using that sort of mid-range, this will feel more powerful and punchier because you've got that more powerful electric motor, and the way that it's tuned and calibrated, it does feel a bit more responsive. So initially it does feel slightly more responsive and powerful, but then overall it's pretty much the same. Like from my point of view behind the wheel, it feels pretty much the same as the old model. And I think that's a good thing, because even though you got less power, you're getting better fuel consumption and similar sort of performance or similar sort of feel from the throttle. You do have an EV mode, although it doesn't really carry through EV mode for very long. It's better for just car parks and so on. Once you get out onto the open road, it will fire up the petrol engine and then seamlessly merge it in with that, and you'll get both as you're driving along. The other major update is the interior. So again, it kind of carries through a similar sort of rugged theme as before. This example's got the two-tone trim, looks quite nice. Even this suede section through the middle of the seat there, I think is quite nice. Updated center console. It's a bit less rugged, although you still got that sort of patterned texture along the bottom there. Scratchy bottom of the cup holders, but that's all rubber. You've got twin wireless chargers as well. They're kind of rubber as well, just to help, sort of rubber, to help your phone from, stop your phone from sliding about. 45 watt USB-C ports, drive mode toggles and all of that. Some physical controls have been removed in favor of this 14-inch touch screen, which is also brand new. 12-inch screen for the driver on all models. But yeah, I think the base models come with a 10-inch screen, a bit smaller. You do have physical controls for the temperature and the volume knob, so that is good, but everything else is within that screen. I mean, apart from the drive mode toggles. Neat little pocket up there for the passenger to put their phone or something while they're charging. And you've got decent sized bottle holders in the doors. Massive handles for the doors too. Like, it goes right in there. I don't really know what you're meant to do with that. You could put your phone in there maybe, I guess, but it seems like a bit of wasted space. But yeah, decent pockets down there in the bottom of the doors. And passenger space inside, look, I think the RAV4 is popular for a reason. It's just very approachable and friendly, ergonomic. It just seems like one of those cars you can just get in and drive it. You don't have to worry about learning where everything is, or yeah, it doesn't feel intimidating at all. I mean, apart from the reduced buttons and everything, or a lot of things put into the touchscreen, it's a practical package. I've got a good amount of room. Only thing I did find driving along, the mirror is right in my blind spot. Even though there is a little quarter window there, it's hard to see when you're coming up to a roundabout or something like that, to see over that. It just seems to block it quite a bit. And it stretches pretty long too, like all the way from the housing all the way over the other side. And I've just noticed that compared with some other rivals where I don't really have that sort of problem. I mean, again, having that little quarter window there does help, but you can see if there's some movement behind that. And the pillar itself is quite thin as well, so you can see around it. There's no major problem. I've just noticed the mirror seems to be positioned a bit higher than the previous model. And out the back, nice clear view. The pillars aren't overly chunky, and with the sunroof, you've got plenty of light coming in. You've also got a surround view camera with this top spec model as well to help you out during parking and so on. And up at the back, decent amount of room again. There are more spacious options in this class that don't have a center driveline tunnel or hump there, so that is going to take up a bit of leg room for the middle seat passenger. Do have twin climate vents, heated seats in the outer seats for this model as well. 15-watt chargers, cup holders, armrest, and all of that. Decent amount of space. Like, my head's nowhere near the ceiling. Even getting in and out, it seems very practical, upright sort of orientation. You've actually got reclining seats as well. I can just sit right back and relax. You don't get that in all the rivals. Actually, that's probably too far back. But yeah, it's a very comfortable place to be. There are more spacious rivals out there if that's what you want, but I wouldn't put that down as a complaint. It's just there are bigger models out there if that's what you need. And right at the back, you've got plenty of beeps and bongs as per typical with Toyotas. Very decent boot. You've got the JBL sound system in the cruiser spec, and you've got a space saver spare wheel under the floor, so that is good. A lot of the rivals now just have a tyre repair kit, which I don't think is ideal if you're spending time touring around Australia, because at least with a space saver you can swap the tyre. It doesn't matter what happens to the tyre. If it completely blows off the rim, you can just swap that over, whereas a tyre repair kit, you're totally limited. If the tyre is not, you know, just got a little hole in it, then it can work, and sometimes it just doesn't work. It means you've got to sit on the side of the road and wait for someone to bring you a spare tyre or get towed. Obviously they come with roadside assistance, so you don't have to worry too much if you're in the city and so on. But yeah, I think that is definitely a positive, having at least a space saver. Obviously a full-size spare would be even better, but that would eat into boot space even more. It does look like you've got a dual level floor here as well, so you can put this whole board up onto that second slot there, and then have more room under the floor. You could probably get you could almost get a full-size spare under there and just prop this up just slightly if you were doing some proper touring around Australia. All right, let's take it for a drive and see how it handles, see how it goes, and we'll do the performance test later on as well. Just before we set off, I just want to show you quickly the ADAS systems, because it is a little bit annoying in my opinion. I mean, you've got this main menu for the touch screen, which is good to see, and then your climate controls are down here. Hit that button to get you the more detailed climate settings. I don't think that's as user-friendly or as, you know, distraction-free as having physical buttons and controls down on a separate panel, because you do have to look, and then, you know, you got to pinpoint your finger on that exact spot. Sometimes you miss it. Whereas a button, you always know it's there. You don't even have to look at it really. Just glance down and look back up again. You know your finger is on it because you can feel it. Whereas a touchscreen, you can't. But yeah, the ADAS systems, you've got to go into this menu. And then you can go in and turn off whatever you want to turn off, like the lane departure warning. I've got that turned off. That turns back on again as you reset the vehicle as per the regulations. But the driver monitoring camera, you can only turn this off when you're when you're stationary. Once you start moving, this menu is blocked out and you can't actually go in there. So you've got to remember to do that every time, and you will want to do it because this camera is quite sensitive. Toyota cameras have usually been pretty good, whereas this one has gone off quite a few times just when I'm, you know, changing the radio station or adjusting the temperature or whatever. It goes off pretty quickly. So yeah, I think you're going to want to turn that off, but yeah, it's annoying that you've got to brake suggestion. You've got to go into this menu when you're stopped. You can't do it once you start driving. While we're going around this corner, the ride and handling, I think it feels pretty much the same as the old model. Like, I can't see that there's a massive difference. The ride is got that kind of slightly firm, sporty feel to it, but it's still absorbent enough to take in impacts on, you know, ordinary country roads like this one. I think it's a good balance. I don't think it's the best handling SUV in this class or the most comfortable in this class. It just gets like a 7.5 out of 10 for ride and handling, which is going to suit a wider audience. It's not too sporty, it's not too soft, it's just right in the middle there. In terms of economy, I'm averaging 6.2 litres per 100 kilometres. That's after performance testing. So I think that's a very good rating. I think you could easily get that down much lower than that. I have achieved in the 4s in the previous model, so I don't see why this wouldn't achieve in the 4s as well. And again, considering that's just after I've done performance testing, given a full throttle, did about 5 or 6 runs, trying out the different modes and so on, that's 6.2. I think that's a very good rating. In terms of acceleration, I'll just slow down and give it the full beans, show you what it's like, or a preview. See, it does feel a bit punchier. When I put my foot down, you've got this immediate burst from the electric motor, and then the petrol engine sort of cut in a bit after, and it did feel a little bit more responsive compared with the previous model doing the same exercise. Yeah, like the interior though, it's very approachable in the way it drives. Like, I don't just mean the practicality of the layout. It just feels normal to drive. The steering, it's got decent communication coming through. The steering wheel position, it just feels very natural. Yeah, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but this is not intimidating to drive. Anybody could get in this, your grandmother could get in this and happily drive it along, and that's what Toyotas have you know, always been about. They're not you know, overly complex, including in terms of their driving manners. You've got a number of different drive modes to choose from, quite a few actually. Trail and snow, normal, but you've got separate buttons for all of these, which is really weird. Instead of just having, you know, a toggle through them all, you've actually got to move your hand about just to change the mode. So we'll go into here and we'll put it into the sport mode. We've also got custom and normal and eco. Give it the full beans. I can feel the front end just tugging a little bit. There's a bit of electric power going through there, like it's not just the petrol engine. Skipping over that bump there. Carrying a bit of speed around here. It seems to be pretty flat and neutral, although I think the GR Sport is obviously the pick if you do want to do lots of sporty driving down winding roads. Yeah, I think it's not too bad. Look, it's not, as I said, it's not the best handling SUV in this class, but it's certainly not the worst. It just fits right in the meaty section of just above average. Acceleration is quite good though, so in the sport mode you're definitely getting better response. I'll just put my foot down a little bit again. Yeah, you're definitely picking up speed quicker when you're only using, you know, half throttle, for example. If you give it full beans, it's just going to give you full power anyway. I don't think it's going to make much difference between eco and sport. Yeah, it feels quite nice. I mean, apart from the CVT transmission, which is just, you know, a little bit boring, it's just got this sort of whirring sound. It's an enjoyable vehicle to drive, and again, it just fulfills such a wide variety of demands and needs in that, yeah, you can take this down a sporty road or a spirited road and have a bit of fun, but it's also excellent as an everyday, you know, pick up the groceries, pick up the kids from school, fit everybody in the vehicle, and have excellent fuel consumption in return. If you push it really hard down some tighter bends, it does eventually start to sort of peel understeer, which is the safest option anyway. Most vehicles in this class are going to behave the same. That's better than snap oversteer, but you've got good communication coming through the wheel, so you know when this is going to happen before it happens. That's why I think the RAV4 has been so successful, because it really does package in all the important bits of what people want in a vehicle in this class. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see how it goes.